So this thing is already 2 months old.
Time really flies. It's been a lot of fun using this phone as my daily driver. The camera is really good and it's a really snappy experience overall. Now I don't have to choose a side luckily, and this is not one of those I switched to videos. But hear me out. I've used my iPhone 13 Pro mainly because of the video quality for YouTube. And it's colors and processing effects that make or break these. They both have excellent cameras, and if you're just shooting outside, you will be having a hard time knowing which one is which. But in certain scenarios, it's really easy to see the difference. But that's about it. Android runs smoothly, Google Pay works perfect, the customizability is cool, the S Pen is still very handy for making notes or even scrolling around, and the size of this thing is just awesome for watching videos or browsing the internet. And just the speed of this thing is something I really noticed right away. On a personal note though, I dropped my phone multiple times because it is simply too big. I noticed that almost every time I dropped it, the S Pen was either loose or fell out. Which, although understandable, can be very dangerous if you drop it at the wrong place, and I would have liked a little more security on that front. While talking about the S Pen, I think it's still a very cool feature and I've used it quite a lot. But it got less the longer I used this device. And that's got to do with the fact that switching between keyboard and the S Pen isn't as smooth as I would have hoped. Sometimes it didn't even recognize a simple tap on the keyboard icon, and I would have to switch to my hand in order for it to work. In that way, it all felt a bit gimmicky. So for me, it's either a good experience and works all the time, smoothly, or I'll never use it at all. And that last one seems to be true for me here. 1 year ago, I got a lot of hate for saying this, but it's just too easy to knock it off the couch or fall out of your pocket. Now I know this is really subjective, you might not even have the problem at all, but I think it's worth mentioning still. At this price range, you're pretty close to a Galaxy Fold 4, which is much easier to carry around and still has that wow factor when you show it to people. I'm not going to bore you with specs as there is already thousands of videos on this topic on YouTube. But I will say that with all the discounts Samsung was offering this year, there is really no need to settle for a 128GB version. I got the 512 gigs version, and that's really all you need. Something that shocked me though was the fact that the system already eats up a whopping 81GB on the 512GB version, which is crazy. But the 512 gigs is still all I ask for. I won't even get close to filling all that storage space. The camera really makes beautiful photos and videos. Especially the stabilization is awesome now. I went to the Keukenhof in the Netherlands to make these especially for this video. And I must say, it was really difficult to tell them apart while filming, but also when shooting photos. And to make this interesting, we will do a quick A/B test. Okay, so you may have already guessed it, but A was the iPhone 13 Pro and B was the Samsung S23 Ultra. Now what I noticed was that the Samsung makes their photos lighter, while the iPhone makes them a little darker. Something that is easily fixed in post for either, so really not that big of a deal. I also noticed the cinematic blur on the iPhone while not focusing on anything in particular, while it was all sharp on the S23 Ultra. But especially with that macro shot, the S23 Ultra blew the iPhone away. What I noticed above anything else though was the fact that I couldn't pick them apart without the information of actually knowing which one is which. So that's a huge win for Samsung. Now of course I couldn't compare the optical zoom because the iPhone does not have it, but it still looks awesome on the S23 Ultra. While I was running around with this rig to make these shots, some people asked me if it was for making multiple photos at once, so not to miss the shot. And even though I found that really funny then, when looking back at these results, it might actually be the best strategy if you always want the winning shot. There is no best camera, just the one you prefer most. And to add to that, the Samsung S23 Ultra just makes amazing photos. And playing around with that zoom was really a lot of fun. That 8K filming is just absolutely gorgeous. Really good stabilization, of course really sharp image too, and to see how far they've come is just great.
The selfie camera is good fun too. With all those smoothness enhancement options and even jawline enhancement options, you get the feeling that almost everything is fake nowadays.
It also has a lot of features built in the camera app, which make it even better, like the director's view, Pro mode or Pro video mode, and of course the portrait options, among others. The fingerprint reader is also really fast, and if you know where the scanner is, you don't even have to press the power button first to find it. There is a slight delay when you do that though, so it feels more natural to actually turn on this thing first. Even with water, no problem at all, and just as fast as with dry hands. When we're talking design, I think the S23 Ultra looks and feels really good. The sides have just enough flat area to make it easy to hold, and the slight rounding makes the phone comfortable to hold too, unlike those blocky feeling newer iPhones. The curve in the screen looks really good too, and it makes for easy access to that side menu that Samsung perfected. The camera bump is of course really noticeable when laying on its back, but that's to be expected. And most people have a case anyway. If you don't, maybe you want to check out my top 10 cases video for the S23 Ultra. I like the fact that they moved everything to the bottom like the SIM card tray. It just makes the design that much sleeker. And the slight rounding on the S Pen button is just perfection. Battery life is also really good. Much better than the iPhone 14 Pro Max and even my trusty iPhone 13 Pro. I could easily reach the end of the day with quite intensive usage and still have 30% left. Only when gaming on this phone I could notice a quick drain of the battery, and that's really the only time I charge this thing twice a day, after a 2-hour long gaming session. If I ever decide to main another device, I would really miss the battery performance on this one. I like the fact that Samsung offers more and more customization features inside the skin of Android. And with a few third-party apps, you can really transform your home screen into something unique. Now, speaking about third-party apps, it seemed like no browser would give the option to position the address bar to the bottom, which for me is essential due to this huge screen. But then I tried the Samsung stock browser and finally it had that feature built in. Because of this, I used it more and more and actually liked it quite a lot. It's got a lot of options and it's really fast too.
Other than that, it's a great phone with an even better Android experience.